Good morning, everybody. My name is Amanda, and I teach mostly at the North Studio. We're getting so close to reopening, so stay tuned for some information as we figure stuff out ourselves. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get started this morning in Shavasana. Rolling out on your backs. Chest open, arms down on the mat. Legs sway open a little bit. Gently closing your eyes. Starting to come into that Ujjayi breath. That inhale in through the nose. Exhale through the nose. Constricting the whisper muscles in the back of your throat as you make that audible exhale. We try to keep this Ujjayi breath going throughout the practice as much as we can, especially when we get moving quicker. It helps to calm down our nervous systems, sympathetic nervous system, which helps to aid in a reduction of anxiety, perhaps depression. Movement in general helps to reduce depression. Yoga helps by doing a lot of things within the body. Some of these poses aid in improvement in mood and decrease in anxiety, as well as aiding in digestion, which always sounds like a weird thing, perhaps, in class when a teacher says that. But we hold a lot of serotonin in our gut, and if we don't have good gut health, then that can affect our mood. Wild, right? There's a lot of stuff that we store in our bodies. You hear us talk about storing things in our hips, storing things in our shoulders. Yoga helps to work those things out so that we can let go of what doesn't serve us and move purposefully out into the world so we can take on all the stuff that does have meaning to us. So on your next inhale, let's hug our right knee into our chest. Bringing that knee up and around the rib cage, up into the armpit in our wind relieving pose. This is one of those poses that aids in digestion. So no shame if you feel a little discomfort in the belly and you need relief. That's the name of the pose. So hug this knee into your chest, up and around the rib cage, really pulling this knee in. And let's release. Let's bring the left knee up and around the rib cage, hugging this knee in. Our right foot is flexed, our left foot is relaxed, but you can take some ankle circles maybe. Hugging this knee in, pulling it down, up and around into your armpit, really feeling that stretch. And compressing the left side body, the bees that we pull in the internal organs on this side. And now let's release. Let's bend our knees, bringing our heels close to our glutes. Our heels are about hips width distance. We are going to place our right ankle on top of our left knee. Reaching around, grabbing a hold perhaps of the behind the thigh, coming into this figure 4. And we're pulling our right leg closer to us, pulling our left leg closer to us, which is pulling that right ankle down, so we can feel that hip opening. We may want to extend this left leg up to the sky. Maybe you're reaching and grabbing a hold of the calf, pulling this leg further, feeling more of a stretch in the left leg over the right hip. Whatever feels good to you this morning, whatever you want more of. There's no right way to do it, just depends on what you want. And now let's bring that down, keeping this right ankle here. We're going to ground through our left leg. Our arms are down by our side. and grounding down to rise up, lifting our hips up off the mat, peeling our spine up off the mat. And exhale down. Inhale to rise. Exhale, release. Inhale, lift. Exhale, down. Inhale, rise. Exhale, release. One more. And down. Let's take our arms out to a capital T, and we're going to bring this right foot down to the ground. Right foot hits the ground. We're going to try to keep our right shoulder on the ground, feeling this twist. If this is good for you, and I'm feeling a pretty intense stretch in my right hip right now, as well as the twist in the spine, which is nice. But if you'd like a little extra, you can take those eagle legs and try to bring that right knee down to the ground, getting even more of the twist. And if your knees aren't quite making it to the ground, or your shoulders aren't quite making it to the ground, maybe you think about inhaling and pulling that shoulder closer to the ground, exhaling, pulling those knees closer to the ground. Never necessary to get them down all the way, but it is a goal, so it's something to work towards. And now let's release back to center, and we'll bring this right foot down. Left ankle on top of right knee this time, reaching through, grabbing a hold behind the right thigh, pulling that right thigh towards your face, feeling that stretch of the left hip, taking this figure 4 here. Options again, extending that right heel to the sky, getting even more of a stretch up the right leg. You can even grab a hold of the calf and pull that down, maybe even grabbing a hold of the big toe as you pull. Making sure we're not locking out the knee joint. Soft bend in the knee there as you pull. And now let's release down this right foot to the ground. Arms down by our side, grounding through your heel as we lift our hips up off the mat. On the inhale, exhale down. Inhale, peeling the spine 1 vertebra at a time up. Exhale, 1 vertebra at a time down. Inhale, rise. Exhale, release. Lifting on the inhale. Exhale, down. Inhale to rise. Exhale, release. Breath in as you lift. Breath out as you release. Excellent. Let's take our hands to that capital T, and then we're going to bring our left foot down for that twist. Again, eagle legs is an option for you if you want a little bit more. And then using the breath to breathe in, pull that left shoulder down, breathe out. Bring those knees, that left knee to the ground. Now let's release back to center. We're going to bring that left foot down to the ground. If you have a block nearby, grab a hold of it. I'm going to place the block under our sacrum. If you don't have a block, that's fine. We're going to come into a waterfall pose, just an easy inversion right before we get started. The block isn't necessary if you don't have one. If you have anything, a pillow or a cushion that can lift your hips a little bit, that's helpful. But if not, you can keep your back flat on the ground and just lift your feet up to a 90-degree angle. Without the block, perhaps you want to come up with legs on the wall, bringing your legs up to a nearby wall, and just hanging out here for a few breaths. And now let's bring our feet to the ground, lifting our hips up off the block, removing that block. We'll hug our knees into our chest, rock side to side, massaging the low back. Let's take a moment for a happy laughing baby. Grabbing hold of those big toes, pulling those knees down, trying to keep the spine flat on the mat from tip to tail, thinking about that tailbone pushing down, every vertebrae pushing into the mat, all the way up, crown of your head. And now let's hug those knees into the chest. We're going to rock and roll the length of our spine. Taking 3 to 4 rocks, perhaps pausing in that 4th rock in our boat pose, holding here, and now crossing those ankles, we're going to roll over into our tabletop position. Wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. Let's take our round of cat-cows. Inhale, eyes and tailbone to the sky, hammocking the belly. Exhale, belly button into spine as we arch our back. Inhale, eyes and tailbone to the sky. Exhale, rounding the back, arching the back. Inhale. Exhale. Using your breath to move through these poses your way. Maybe even taking some intuitive movements, using the breath to move your body any way that feels good and comfortable. Waking up this morning. Now let's come to stillness with a flat back. We're going to pop our toes and sink our hips back down towards our heels, feeling that stretch like in the bottoms of the foot, maybe from the toes. Just holding there for a few breaths. And now let's come back up to our tabletop. We're going to sink back onto our heels, lifting our knees, feeling that stretch in the tops of the feet and the ankles. Maybe bringing our hands to heart center, gently closing your eyes. And now let's release and come back to our tabletop. Popping our toes again, sending our hips back towards our heels on that exhale. We're pushing in with our hands to really push our hips closer and closer to our heels, feeling that stretch in the feet, opening up those toes. And let's come back to center. We're going to sink back one more time, lifting our knees, hands coming to heart center. And coming back to our tabletop. From our tabletop, we're going to stick our left foot out, toes touching the ground to start. Toes touching the ground to start. Right hand out in front of you, like you're going to shake someone's hand. Right now, with our toes down, our hip is pointed down towards the ground. We want to keep our hips level and our hips, both the SI points of our hips, both pointing down towards the ground. Now lift that left foot, keeping those hips level. Thinking about hugging in, lowest rib cage and our hip. Hugging in, crunching in, holding here, and releasing down. Let's send our right foot out, left arm. Now lifting that right toe, keeping those hips level, pointed down towards the mat, feeling that crunch between the lowest rib and the hip, using the core to hold us up as we hold this pose, and release. Let's switch sides. So our left foot out, keeping that hip pointed, feeling that crunch between the lowest rib and the hip. Right arm out, hugging in. Exhaling, bringing our elbows to our knees. Inhaling, extending. Exhale, elbow to knee. Inhale, extend. Elbow to knee. Inhale, extend. And now bringing it down. Right leg, left arm. Making sure our hips are pointed down. Our belly button is in. We're feeling that crunch, just like when we're holding the plank, the low rib crunching in towards our hip. Elbow to knee. Extend. Elbow to knee. Inhale, extend. Elbow to knee. Inhale, extend. One more time. And bring it down. Left leg out, right arm. This time we're going to bend this knee. Maybe we can reach around and grab a hold of those right toes with our left toes with our right hand. Taking this back bend, releasing and extending out. Bring that right hand down, keeping this left leg extending. Let's bring the left leg around, tapping those toes, and bring it back to center. Left leg behind, tapping those toes, and back to center, and down. Right leg extends, left arm hanging out here, or perhaps reaching back, grabbing a hold of those right toes. Extending out, left arm down, right arm out to the side, tap the toes, back to center, right leg behind, back to center, and down. Let's push back to a child's pose, sinking your hips down towards your heels, knees wide, fingertips walking towards the top of the mat, forehead on the mat, and breathing. Starting to get more intentional with our child's pose, inhaling and walking your fingertips forward. Exhale, pulling back, sinking those hips towards your heels. Now let's walk up back to our tabletop for just a moment, and then we'll push back to our downward facing dog. Taking our dog for a walk, bending one knee and then the other. Maybe we're shaking our head yes, shaking our head no. Lifting our right heel to the sky, right heel straight up, keeping the hips pointed down to the ground. Now bending our knee, now opening up our hip. Taking those hip circles one way, and then the other, and bringing it down. Left heel rises, bend the knee, opening up. Hip circles one way, and then the other, and bring it down. Breath in, breath out. Inhale. Exhale, filling up, empty, tiptoeing our feet to our hands, meeting in that forward fold. Halfway lift, inhale, bringing your hands to your shins, perhaps keeping that flat back. Exhale, fold. Arms up overhead as we rise up, extending mountain pose. Exhale, fold forward. Halfway lift. Stepping back to a high plank position. We'll lower down to our bellies. Wrists under shoulders. Toes pushing into the mat so much that our knees are lifting up off the mat. And with little to no weight in the hands, all of the lift coming from the core, we lift up into our cobra pose. Exhale down. Let's lift up a little higher, so a little more weight in the hands. Cobra, inhale. Exhale. Lifting even higher. Exhale. Now let's come to a Sphinx pose. Bring our elbows directly under our shoulders. Inhale and lifting our chest. Proud chest. Holding the Sphinx pose for a few breaths. Inhaling and exhaling. Breath in. Breath out. Inhale. Exhale, let's bring it down. Hands coming back under our shoulders. And we're going to push back to our downward facing dog. Belly button into your spine as your hips lift. Inhale. Exhale. Fill it up. Empty. Big breath in. Release. Walk our feet to our hands. Halfway lift. Hold. Rise up. Extended mountain pose. Reach up. Look up. Exhale. Fold forward. Halfway lift. Stepping back. Jumping back. Moving through your vinyasa. Lowering down. Inhaling to rise. Downward facing dog. Breath in. Breath out. Fill up. Empty. Big breath in. Release. Walk, step, or jump. Feet to your hands. Halfway lift. Inhale. Exhale. Fold. Rising up. Extended mountain pose. Exhale. Fold forward. Halfway lift. Stepping back. Jumping back. Moving through your vinyasa. Inhale to rise. Downward facing dog. Breath in. Breath out. Fill up. Empty. Big breath in. Release. Feet to your hands. Halfway lift. Inhale. Exhale. Fold. Rising up. Extended mountain pose. Exhale. Fold forward. Halfway lift. Stepping back, jumping back, lowering down on that exhale. Inhale, rise. Exhale. Downward facing dog. Breath in. Breath out. Fill up. Empty. Big breath in. Release. Walk, step, or jump. Feet to your hands. Halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Palms together to touch, heels slightly apart as you sink your hips. One breath, we rise into our Utkatasana. Inhale. Exhale, fold forward. Halfway lift. Stepping back, jumping back, lowering through your chaturanga perhaps. Inhaling to rise, upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Right heel rises. Bringing it forward. Inhaling as we lift. Exhale to the mat, moving through your vinyasa, lowering down, inhale to rise, downward facing dog, left heel rises, bringing it forward, inhaling, up to our warrior one, to the mat, chaturanga, lowering down on that exhale, inhale, lift, downward facing dog, breath in, breath out. Walk, step, or jump, feet to your hands. Halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Utkatasana, rise up and sink low. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Stepping back, jumping back, moving through your vinyasa. Inhale, up, downward facing dog. Right heel rises, swinging it forward. Warrior one. To the mat. Lowering down on that exhale. Inhaling to rise. Downward facing dog. Left heel. Rising a warrior one. To the mat. Lowering through that exhale. Inhale to rise. Downward facing dog. Breath in. Breath out. Big breath in. Filling up. Empty. Keeping your hands halfway lift. Hold. Utkatasana. Thinking those hips and holding for a moment. Let's take our hips low, low, low. Coming into this sort of half chair. Taking our chest to thigh. And then inhale, rise. And sink our hips low, 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 low. Taking that chest to thigh. Very slow intentional movement. Sinking those hips. Taking that chest to thigh. One more. And now exhale, fold forward. Halfway lift. Looking back. Moving through your Vinyasa. Right heel rises. Forward for warrior one. Take that chest to thigh. Bringing those arms back. Inhaling as we lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise. Exhale, fold. Inhale, opening to warrior two. Reversing your warrior. Extended side angle. Reverse. Extended side angle. Reverse. Extended side angle. Reverse. Cartwheel those hands to the mat. Move through the Vinyasa. Median downward facing dog. Breath in. Breath out. Fill up. Empty. Big breath in. Release. Left heel rises, swinging it forward. Warrior one. Inhale as you lift. Exhale, take that chest to thigh. Inhale, rise. Flowing through these. One breath, one movement. Going at your own pace. Let's open to warrior two. Reverse that warrior. Extend the side angle. Reverse. Extend. Reverse. Extend. Reverse. And now cartwheel your hands to the mat, moving through your flow. Inhaling in your downward facing dog. Exhaling. Filling up. Empty. Big breath in. Release. Your hands. Inhale, halfway lift. Fold. Rising up to extended mountain pose. Arms up overhead. Bring those arms out. Fingertips directly out of your shoulders. Bring our feet about hips width apart. Lowering into this chair, weight in your heels, lowering down, coming all the way down, lifting those heels as we come onto our knees, setting up for camel, popping our toes, hands starting on our thighs. Inhale as we take our right arm up, popping the right heel, bring that left hand up and back down. Left hand this time. Flowing through these one breath, one movement. Inhale, lift and tap. Exhale down. Inhale, lift, tap behind. Exhale down. Flowing through these to your own pace of your breath. One more. And now let's take our hands to our sacrum, setting up for camel. Our hips moving forward as we start to look back, gaze back, making this back bend. If you can see the back room, the back of the wall, maybe. We're reaching down and grabbing a hold of our heels. Thumbs inside, fingertips on the outside of your hand, of your feet, as you push your heels open with your thumbs, feeling that chest opening, hips lengthening towards the front of the room, pulling those hips forward, breathing, rolling out of this, sinking onto your heels. Hands rest on your knees gently. Close your eyes and let go. There's very little that we are actually in control of besides our own thoughts and our own reactions. When we come into camel, we feel a lot of stress swirl up inside of us. A lot of anxiety, a lot of things we've been worried about. Camel helps to swirl those up out of us and get them out of us into the universe, letting go of what we don't need. Let's rise up, popping our toes, hands on our low back, camel number 2. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, begin that gaze back, looking back, going back, pushing those hips forward. If you're ready, reaching down, grabbing hold of those heels and breathing. Rising up out of this, sinking our hips down. Gently closing your eyes, hands on your knees. If you really think about it, these things that we can't control, we don't need to worry about them. They're beyond our control. They don't require any mental energy or physical energy from us. We just need to focus on what we can control, which is our practice, our thoughts, our behaviors, our reactions. Let's take our hands into that C grip, putting our hands back into our back pockets, cupping our heels, inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, bringing the top of your head down to the mat, forehead close to your knees as you round your spine as much as you can. Lifting your hips up off of your heels, not doing a somersault because your C grip is catching your heels. And releasing out. Arms up overhead, hand palms together. Let's scoot back a little bit. Now lowering your forehead down to the mat. Trying to get your forehead to not meet before your fingers. And using your breath here, inhale, reaching those fingertips forward. Exhale, planting the sides of your hands into the mat. Exhale, pulling your shoulders back, feeling the sawing motion. So inhale and reach. Exhale, pulling back. Now let's rise up, trying to get our hands this time to lift off the mat before our forehead. Hands down by our side. Let's plant our hands in front of us and bring our right foot on the outside of our right hand, setting up for our lizard pose. Sending that left foot back a bit, feeling this stretch up the top of the left thigh, and then hanging out right here, or maybe using a block to rest on, resting our hands or maybe resting our forearms. Trying to keep the right knee and the right shoulder glued together. Let's inhale and rise up. We'll plant our right hand on the outside of our right foot this time and working on flowing through our half splits. If full splits is in your practice, go for it. If you're working on full splits and you're close but not quite there, and you want to extend this right leg out and maybe rest on a block, you can certainly do that. Otherwise, we're going to flow through these half splits. Inhaling forward, exhaling, keeping the foot planted, and we reach back. Inhale forward, exhale back. Inhale forward. Exhale, maybe we pop the toes this time, see if we like how that feels. Inhale, and reach. Exhale back. And now we'll come forward, plant our left hand, send our right arm to the sky, gazing up at our right thumb. Maybe we can pop our toes, reaching back and grabbing a hold of that cattail, taking that twist. And release. Popping our toes, bring that knee up. And we'll come to a three-legged dog. Swinging this right heel up to the sky, bending the knee and opening up the hip. Maybe we can take our flip dog, bringing our heels close together, sending our hips up, reaching this right hand towards the ground, and bringing it back to our three-legged dog, and downward facing dog. Let's lift our left heel, bringing this left foot forward, coming down onto our right knee, setting up for our lizard on this side. Hands inside of your left foot, left shoulder, left knee glued together. Choosing your option for your lizard. Using a block to help get deeper and deeper into this pose. Lowering down perhaps to your forearms on the mat or the block. Holding here for several breaths. Now let's inhale and rise up. Planting our left hand on the outside of our left foot, setting up to flow through our half splits. Again, full splits in your practice, go for it. But we're going to inhale, lengthen forward. Exhale, pushing back, keeping that foot planted this time. Inhale forward. Exhale back. Inhale forward. Exhale back. Inhale forward. Popping the toes this time perhaps, feeling how different that stretch is. Inhale forward. Exhale back. Now planting the right hand, sending that left arm up to the sky, staying here, maybe popping those toes, reaching back, grabbing a hold of that cattail, taking that twist. And release. Planting these hands, popping this right knee up, stepping back to our three-legged dog. Bending the knee, opening up the hip. Perhaps flipping that dog, sending our hips up high to the sky. reaching that left arm down closer to the ground. And releasing. Coming back to our three-legged dog. Downward facing dog. Breath in. Breath out. Fill up. Empty. Big breath in. Release. Let's bring our forearms down into our dolphin pose. Doing some strengthening in the shoulders. Hugging in here, holding here. If you would like, walking your fingertips up closer and closer to your elbows. This is prep for forearm stand. If forearm stand is in your practice, go for it. If you're in your forearm stand, bring it on down, meet in this dolphin, and then we'll pop up to our downward facing dog. Breath in, breath out. Filling up and empty. Let's roll out to our high plank, lowering down to your bellies. Setting up for our belly down postures this morning. Chin is on the mat, belly on the mat, toes together to touch. Arms down by your side, palms on the mat. On your inhale, lifting up off the mat, coming into our locust pose. Inhale and lift. Hugging everything in together, thighs spinning in towards each other, squeezing the belly, squeezing the glutes, lifting your feet, lifting your shins, lifting your knees, arms, everything up off the mat. Inhale and lift. Exhale, release. Taking a cleansing breath in and a cleansing breath out. Locust number 2. Let's get to it. Toes together to touch. If your low back is not feeling this morning, you can keep your feet about hips width distance, but otherwise toes together to touch, chin on the mat. On your next inhale, lifting everything that you can up off the mat. Lifting up, hugging in, skin to muscle to bone. This is a core exercise if ever there was one, and sometimes in these exercises we don't breathe. So breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose, inhaling, lifting, and exhale, release. Taking a cleansing breath in and a cleansing breath out. Setting up for our floor bow, reaching back and grabbing a hold of your toes right at the shoelace line. If today you feel like doing one at a time, totally fine. We're going to do 2 of these. So pick a foot, doesn't matter which foot. Say the right foot, we always start right first. So grabbing a hold of your toes. If you're grabbing a hold of one, say you're grabbing a hold of your right foot, send that left arm out long in front of you. And on your next inhale, lift up, creating that beautiful teardrop shape. Those toes lifting up over your head, trying to keep those toes in line. Sometimes we pull harder with one hand than the other. Inhaling, really pulling, keeping those toes in line, and exhale, release. Taking that cleansing breath in and cleansing breath out. Reaching back, grabbing a hold of your toes. If you did one side, if you did your right foot, on the other side, do your left foot this time. And on your next inhale, lift up, hugging into lift up, belly button into spine, remembering to breathe as you breathe in through your nose and out through your nose, pulling those toes up and over your head, making that gorgeous shape, really lift and inhale, and exhale, release. Windshield wiper in your feet, back and forth, releasing the low back. Now let's roll over onto our backs to set up for our bridge or wheel pose, getting our back bends in this morning. If you have a block, I'll give you some options. If you'd like a restorative bridge, you can absolutely take a restorative bridge now by placing this block underneath your sacrum. Setting up for your bridge, bringing your heels close to your glutes and lifting your hips enough to get that block underneath your sacrum. Knowing that the block has several different heights, so you can play with the height. Maybe even going up, can I do it? Super high, and extending those legs long and relaxing over this block. Lovely. If you're in that restorative bridge, just stay there as we do all of our bridges and wheels. Just hang out there. And of course, if you would like to come in to release out of restorative bridge and get a more traditional bridge in, you absolutely can. Other option for the block is placing the block between your knees. This ensures that your knees are in the proper alignment and aren't splaying out too much. It makes it harder. It makes the pose harder as you have to squeeze the block to hold it together as you lift your hips up. So placing that block between your knees perhaps, rounding through your heels, lifting your hips, clasping your hands underneath, coming up on top of your shoulders, lifting your hips high, hugging in, holding up, breathing into this bridge. Focusing on continuing to lift. As you feel your hips dip, make sure you're lifting them higher and higher, higher than you think they can go, squeezing the glutes, and then lowering down. Bridge number 2, if wheel is in your practice, you can come into that now. Choosing your option, bridge or wheel. If we're in wheel, we've got our hands placed by our ears, rounding down to rise up. Inhale and lift. And then learn to breathe. And release down. Bridge or wheel, number 3. If you're in wheel and you have a block, I'm going to give you an interesting thing to try. Maybe placing this block just right at the top of your head here. We're going to need it in a minute. Whatever you're choosing, grounding down and rising up, lifting up on an inhale. Now, if we're in wheel and we have that block, it's right under our face, and maybe we can kind of do these little push-ups coming down to the block. And lowering down. Nice. Last one, bridge or wheel number 2. For those push-ups, my wrists are kind of feeling it, so maybe clasp your fingers and give your wrists a little workout here. Last one, let's make it our best one. Round down, inhale, exhale, inhale, rise up. Taking this opportunity to do something different. Maybe we're lifting a leg. Maybe we're lifting our heels. Lifting the other leg. And lowering down. Hug your knees into your chest. Rocking side to side. And then feet together, taking our Supta Baddha Konasana. Knees splay open. One hand on your heart, one hand on your chest. Fluttering your eyes open. We're going to lift our arms up above us, palms together. We will clasp our fingers, release our pointer fingers. See if you can hover your feet in the Supta Baddha Konasana a couple inches off the ground, lifting your shoulders up and getting a little bit of an ab moment here as we pulse, pointing those fingers up at the corner of the front of the room, pulsing. And releasing down. Excellent. Hugging your knees into your chest. We'll rock side to side. And then rock the length of your spine. We will pause in that boat pose again. Knowing that we can have our feet down in this boat pose. Maybe we want to lift them. Maybe we take our full expression. Holding here. And crossing our ankles, rolling over into our tabletop position, pushing back to our downward facing dog. Our right heel rises, swinging it forward for resting half pigeon. Right shin parallel to the short side of the mat, sinking down, using a block if you're feeling your right hip is too far off the mat. Flexing our toes, our right toes, to protect the knee, and then lowering down, using the block maybe to rest our head, or perhaps you're able to lower all the way down, melting into this pose. If resting half pigeon is not comfortable for you, you can take the figure 4 that we did at the beginning of class, lowering down on your back, right ankle on our left knee, pulling that left thigh towards you, getting a very similar stretch in that right hip. Otherwise, melting down, relaxing down. Inhale and rise up, pausing perhaps for a king pigeon or a mermaid, bending that left knee. Releasing. Hands down, popping that left knee, bringing this right leg up, three-legged dog, opening up the hip, and bringing that right foot down. Left heel rises, bringing it forward for a resting half pigeon. If we prefer that lovely figure 4 this morning, go on ahead and switch sides. Lowering down, using a block as necessary to make this pose work for you. Melting in to the mat. Inhale and rise up. Take that moment to pause in that mermaid or king pigeon. Planting your hands, coming into that three-legged dog, lifting that left heel, bending the knee and opening up the head. Coming back to our downward facing dog where we take a breath in, breath out. Inhale, exhale, fill it, empty. Let's walk our feet to our hands. Inhale, flat back, exhale, fold, rising up, extended mountain pose, and arms down by our side, Tadasana. We have a couple minutes to play with an inversion of your choice. We did an inversion earlier in this practice, so taking the block underneath your sacrum into that waterfall or legs up the wall is great. Coming into a shoulder stand is good as well. Or if you've been working on a handstand, forearm stand, any of those things, you can give that a try as well. You've got a wall that you feel comfortable with, you know, going for that headstand is great. And if you've never really tried one thing that we can do is come into this. I don't think I have a wall that I can show this easily from this angle. What we could do is practice with the wall by bringing your legs up onto the wall. And what you're going to do is you're going to clasp, this is for headstand, you're going to clasp your hands and you're going to make this sort of diamond shape. Your elbows are going to be directly under your shoulders, and you're going to be placing your head right in where your hands are clasped. And the point of this is you're really holding yourself up. Your core is holding yourself up, and your arms. There's little to no weight really in the neck and the head. So if you're feeling a lot of pressure on your head, then maybe we back off of a little bit and we can try some other inversions. But if you want to try this headstand, let's come into placing our hands in that diamond or that kind of half diamond shape, placing our head, working to get our hips up in line, and then lifting our feet up. One cool way to try to build the strength to really make this work without the wall is to think about that that core lock happening and working on pulling your heels off the wall, like at the same time. Difficult to do. If we're in our shoulder stand, legs up, maybe we come to our plow pose, and then rolling onto our backs. Everybody coming down to your back. If you were in waterfall, removing that block. Coming into our fish pose, hands underneath our sacrum, up on our forearms, gazing back, taking a lion's breath. Inhale, exhale, lowering down onto your back. Setting up for our final resting pose, Shavasana. Earlier in the week, I led us through a Shavasana with our bolster. If you have these items close by, you can create this L shape with your blocks, and then taking a bolster, bringing your hips up to the bolster and reclining back, feeling a chest and heart opening as well as deep relaxation. Thank you for joining me today, whether you joined me live or you're watching this later. I really appreciate everyone and all the support that you've given our beautiful hot yoga community as we try to navigate these murky times. In yoga, we see the light in me sees and recognizes the light in each and every one of you. I hope to see you on the mat in person soon. Namaste.